The 1960s were a turning point for cinema. As the Hays Code began to crumble and the studio system lost its grip, a new generation of filmmakers rose, bold, experimental, and inspired by international cinema. This was the birth of New Hollywood. We all know the classics: Lawrence of Arabia, Psycho, The Graduate. But for every widely celebrated gem, there are just as many incredible films that slipped under the radar. Today, we're diving into the most forgotten films of the 1960s, a decade packed with forgotten brilliance, daring storytelling, and overlooked performances. Hashtag 10. The Girl on a Motorcycle. A psychedelic trip wrapped in leather and longing. The Girl on a Motorcycle stars the stunning Marianne Faithfull as a newly married woman who hops on her bike and takes off through France and Germany. Along the way, she experiences a series of sexual and existential awakenings. This movie is less about plot and more about vibe. With surreal visuals and philosophical voiceovers, it channels the restless spirit of the 60s. Faithfull, best known at the time for her music career, transforms into a cinematic icon here. She brings depth, vulnerability, and raw charisma to the screen in a way that feels ahead of its time. Directed by Jack Cardiff, known for his work as a cinematographer, the film is visually striking. Dreamlike sequences and mod aesthetics make it a standout in the biker genre. It may not have had the wide release it deserved due to the cancelled Cannes Film Festival, but it's a must-watch for fans of counterculture cinema. Hashtag 9. Pretty Poison. Anthony Perkins began the 60s playing one of the most iconic villains in film history. By the end of the decade, he was flipping the script in Pretty Poison. Here, he plays a disturbed but ultimately well-meaning man who gets caught up in a relationship that spirals dangerously out of control. He meets Sue, and played by Tuesday Weld, a seemingly innocent teenager, but she turns out to be far more dangerous than him. Together, they go on missions, fake CIA operations that become all too real when a murder is involved. The dark comedy is twisted and surprising, with a script that dances on the line between satire and tragedy. Perkins gives a subtle, sympathetic performance, while Weld is magnetic as a smiling sociopath. The film's cynical take on the American dream makes it feel timeless, even today. Hashtag 8. Smashing Time. Imagine the absurdity of daisies meets the fashion of swinging London, and you get Smashing Time. This British comedy stars Rita Tushingham and Lynn Redgrave as two northern girls trying to make it big in the capital. The film plays like a candy-colored fever dream, with satirical takes on the music industry, consumerism, and fame. The hit song, I'm So Young, is an intentionally ridiculous anthem that will be stuck in your head for days. It was panned by British critics for being crude and chaotic, but that irreverence is exactly what makes it so fun. It's a pure 60s time capsule, complete with go-go boots, wild prints, and a cheeky attitude. If you're into British comedies with a subversive edge, Smashing Time is worth rediscovering. Hashtag 7. Twisted Nerve. You might recognize the eerie whistle theme from Kill Bill, but it originated in Twisted Nerve, a psychological thriller that leans hard into discomfort. Hywell Bennett plays Martin, a young man who pretends to have a mental disability to gain sympathy and get close to a woman he desires. What starts as manipulation quickly turns into obsession, and the body count rises. The film is beautifully shot, with a haunting score by Bernard Herrmann and solid performances, especially from Haley Mills. But it's also deeply controversial for its portrayal of intellectual impairment, a topic that remains divisive to this day. Despite the controversy, Twisted Nerve left a lasting mark. It helped shape the slasher genre and introduced a new kind of cinematic villain, the charming, boyish psychopath. Hashtag 6. I Love You, Alice B. Toklas. Before we had Meet the Parents, we had I Love You, Alice B. Toklas, a comedy about a man stuck between his conventional life and the chaos of the counterculture. Peter Sellers stars as a conservative lawyer who, after eating pot brownies starts spiraling into a full-on hippie transformation. It's goofy, it's satirical, and it pokes fun at both sides, the buttoned-up establishment and the tie-dye rebellion. The film is lighthearted but clever, with a catchy soundtrack and colorful production design. Sellers delivers yet another brilliant performance, blending physical comedy with existential confusion. Named after the infamous pot brownie recipe by the partner of Gertrude Stein, this movie is a snapshot of the late 60s in all its weird, wonderful glory. #5 Never on Sunday. This Greek-American production feels more progressive than many films released decades later. Never on Sunday tells the story of Ilya, a sex worker in Greece who loves her life. An uptight American scholar tries to save her, but Ilya doesn't want saving. Melina Mercouri is radiant as Ilya, bringing humor, independence, and depth to the role. Jules Dassin, who also wrote and directed the film, co-stars as the American who ultimately learns more from her than she does from him. It's a vibrant, charming film with a powerful feminist undertone. The message: let people live the lives they choose. #4 Peeping Tom. Released the same year as Psycho, Peeping Tom shocked audiences to the point of outrage. It ended director Michael Powell's career in Britain, but over time, it's become a cult classic and a major influence on the horror genre. The story follows a filmmaker who murders women while recording their terrified final moments. The use of the camera as a weapon adds a disturbing meta layer to the film. Powell's direction is precise and stylish, and the color palette is unusually vivid for a horror film of the time. The idea of the killer as someone who looks normal, even artistic, was groundbreaking. It's dark, uncomfortable, and absolutely worth your time. #3 What a Way to Go. If you love costume dramas, surreal comedy, or Shirley MacLaine, What a Way to Go is for you. She plays a woman whose husbands keep dying shortly after becoming rich and successful. All she wants is a simple life, but instead she ends up fabulously wealthy and tragically widowed again and again. Each section of the film parodies a different movie genre, complete with its own aesthetic. Think black and white French art film, stylized musical, or over-the-top melodrama. It's hilarious, visually stunning, and totally bonkers in the best way. And Shirley, she's having the time of her life. #2 Targets. Peter Bogdanovich's debut film Targets is unnervingly prescient. It tells two interwoven stories, one of an aging horror movie actor, played by Boris Karloff, and another of a young man who commits a mass shooting. The genius lies in how these stories converge. Karloff's character feels obsolete. His brand of horror no longer scares people. Meanwhile, real-life violence becomes the new horror. The film was made quickly, with limited resources, and still delivers a gut punch. It reflects a shift in the cultural zeitgeist and raises questions about violence, media, and our collective fear. #1 Petulia. Finally, we come to Petulia, a film as dazzling as it is devastating. Directed by Richard Lester and shot by Nicholas Regg, it's a bold, experimental piece of storytelling. Julie Christie plays Petulia, a quirky and unpredictable woman who begins an affair with a recently divorced doctor, played by George C. Scott. But the story unfolds non-linearly, revealing layers of trauma, longing, and miscommunication. Set against the backdrop of San Francisco's Summer of Love, the film includes real performances by the Grateful Dead and Big Brother and The Holding Company. It captures the contradictions of the era, joy and sorrow, freedom and confusion. Critics at the time didn't know what to make of it, but today it stands as one of the most innovative and emotionally rich films of the decade. So there you have it, 10 hidden gems from the 1960s that deserve way more attention. These films pushed boundaries, explored new forms of storytelling, and captured the spirit of a generation in flux. Which of these have you seen? Which ones are you adding to your watch list? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And if you enjoyed this deep dive, be sure to like, subscribe, and hit that bell so you don't miss future videos. Until next time.